Hey everybody! This is going to be just those same little one-step equations, but we're going to be doing word problems with them. So I'm going to try to follow this little word problem solving 5-step method that they are showing in the lesson. Okay, so this actually I think is a really helpful idea, this idea of a working equation. I used to call this a word equation. I didn't know it had another name. But that's step 3, create a working equation. So that's the part I really want you to pay attention to. But so basically what they're going to have you do is identify all the information, what you know and what you don't know. Okay. Step 2 is you're going to give the unknown quantity a variable. Okay. Then you're going to create that working equation. Then you can solve it. And then it says to restate the problem and state the solution. Okay, so we'll give it a try, see how it goes. Don't be intimidated, okay? And I'm going to show you some of the harder ones with the fractions, okay, as a good opportunity to reteach some fractions. So this one says Moira needs a total of 2 1/4 hours to finish reading a book. Yesterday she read for 1 7/8 hours. Supply the correct numbers to complete the equation that can be used to determine the number of hours H that Moira needs to read to finish the book. All right. You're at home, I would read the problem out loud, okay? Read it twice, okay? I usually read things twice. But so step 1 was I was going to identify all the information. Okay, so this 2 1/4, that's the hours to finish. To finish book. Okay, the 1 7/8 hours, that's what she read yesterday. Okay, and so I don't have any more numbers they're giving me. So the last thing I'm going to identify here is the unknown. So let's see. Supply the correct numbers to complete the equation that can be used to determine the number of hours H that Moira needs to read to finish the book. Okay, so what's unknown is the hours left to finish. All right, and then they have done step 2 was to identify a variable, and they've already done that for me. Okay, so we're gonna let H equal the number of hours left. Okay. Step 3, I think, is to write the equation. Let me just go back up and see those steps. And, you can write these in your notes. This is on page 2 of the lesson. We did steps 1 and 2. Now we're going to create a working equation, solve it, and then restate the answer. So for my equation, I know it's going to have an H. I know it's going to have an equal sign. I know it's going to have a 2 1/4. And I know it's going to have a 1 7/8. So this is my word equation that I'll do. So I'm going to say yesterday's hours plus the hours left has to equal the 2 1/4 to finish. Okay, and that just helps me kind of think about what's going on in the problem. So I really recommend doing that. I don't know if that's really the working equation, but I think that's something that it really helps me. I usually call it a word equation. And then I'll put the rest of the numbers in here. So I've got yesterday's hours, that's 1 7/8, plus the hours left is our unknown, equals 2 1/4. Okay, so now you can see I got the correct answer. All they want you to do in this problem is enter those numbers in, and there should be a tool in your keypad that opens up when you click in the box. There should be one that looks kind of like this, and you can enter a mixed number. Okay, or you can enter the 1 and then click the box that looks like this, and you'll type in the 7 and the 8 like that. Okay, so it's good practice to do that for your test. There might be something like that. I know I'm done with this problem, but I'm going to go ahead and do step 4. Okay, so step 4, we're going to solve this. And the way I'm going to do that, I want h by itself. Here's my line of balance. I'm going to subtract 1 7/8 from both sides. Okay. Those are going to cancel out. And then over here, I pulled up these visual models here just to remind you, you can add and subtract the whole numbers separately from the parts. Okay, so like if you look at this red one, they're adding, this is 1 1/4 plus 1 2/4, or 1 1/2, but the, write it as 2/4 makes it easier. You can say I've got 2 wholes right here and right here, and then you can worry about the 1/4 plus 2/4. Okay, ditto for subtraction. Okay, this one is 2 3/4 minus 1 1/4. Okay, you're allowed to just say I'm taking away 1 whole here. Okay, and then this 1/4, I'm taking it away from here. So what's left over would be 1 2/4. Okay, so 2 minus 2, 3/4 minus 1/4. You're allowed to do that. That's fine. And you can see why that would be the case if you had all that stuff physically in front of you. So what I'm going to do here is actually, this is going to be pretty fancy. Hold on to your socks here. Because, I mean, if I make a 4th out of 8, I only have 2/8. Oops, that's the denominator. I only have 2/8, and then I can't take away 7/8, right? Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. This is going to be a little fancy. Let's see if you can follow my logic here. Okay, I'm going to actually borrow 8/8 from the 2. Okay, so this is 2 1/4. I'm going to turn this into 1 1/4. Okay, now I'm going to add 8/8 to these 2/8, and now there are going to be 10 of them. Okay, so now that I've done that, I have 10/8 minus 7/8. That's going to be 3/8. Okay, and then if we go back over here, 1 minus 1 would be 0. Okay, so that would just be my answer there. H would equal 3/8. Pretty neat. All right, and then step 5 here, they say, let's see if this answer makes sense. Okay, so I would say she has 3/8 of an hour left to read. Okay, so does that make sense? If it was 2¼ hours total, she had already read 1 7/8 of an hour. 7/8 is almost a whole. Okay, so she had read most of the book already. I'm going to say this kind of makes sense. Okay, because she had already read most of the book. She just has a little more to go. And that's our 5 steps of problem solving. Let's try it again. Okay, this is Maria. She has to spend 5½ hours to finish her community service program in a community health clinic. Last week, she was able to spend 3 3/4 hours. Which equation can be used to determine the number of hours H that Maria still needs to spend to complete her service program? So remember, step 1 was we're going to identify what we know and what we don't know. So 5½ hours, that's her total that she needs to finish. Okay, 3 3/4, that's what she's done already. Okay, and then unknown is, this is the number of hours left. All right, so step 2 is identify the variable. They already did that for us. Let H equal the number of hours left. Okay, step 3 is to write the equation. So I'm going to say the hours done plus the hours left is going to equal the total hours. Okay, so the hours already done is the 3 3/4. The hours left is H, we don't know that. The total hours is the 5 1/2. All right, let's solve. That's step 4. Solve. Here's my line of balance. I'm going to subtract 3 3/4 from both sides. I know I've already answered the question that they've asked, but I just want to give you a little more because I know students don't love word problems. Okay. Oh, check this out. This is the fun one again where I get to borrow. Do you agree that 1/2, if I multiply by 2, I get 2/4, and that 2/4 minus 3/4, I can't do that. So I'm going to go ahead and borrow. I'm going to borrow 1 from this 5. That'll turn it into a 4. Okay, but I'm going to borrow it in the form of 4/4. Instead of just borrowing 1, I'm going to get me another 4 of those fourths because 4/4 is 1. Okay, so now I have 6/4. Take away 3/4 leaves me with 3/4. Okay, 6/4 minus 3/4. Now I have 4 minus 3 is 1. So my number of hours here would be 1 3/4. Step 5 is to make sense of this answer. So she has 1 3/4 hours left. Okay, and so I just want to think about, would 3 3/4 plus 1 3/4, would that make sense that that would equal 5 1/2? Oh gosh, I wrote a 5 instead of a 4. I'm just getting a little ahead of myself. 5 1/2. And this makes sense to me, okay? Because 3 and 1 is 4, and then 3/4 and 3/4 is like 75 cents plus 75 cents. That's $1.50. Okay, so that seems good to me. Makes sense of my answer. It all checks out. All right, guys. Let me just see if there was anything else I wanted to show you. Nope, that's it for today. Good luck.